And so you'll get statements, say in Justin Martyr, where he'll talk about, the Father, Son, and Spirit. So that they're talking about the Father, Son, and Spirit, and he'll talk about them as all sharing in the one nature. Sorry?
I don't see that anywhere that he's sharing in the one nature, but go ahead.
Oh, well, hang on. Let me get it up here. So Justin has that in chapter, let's see, it's in CX. So what's that? 128 of his dialogue with Truffaut. Mm-hmm. He says that in terms of the Son, it's not by abscission, as if the essence of the Father were divided, as all other things partitioned and divided, and are not the same after as before, as they were divided. And so he's saying that it's this one nature, that it's not divided. So
okay, that's your interpretation, but that's not my interpretation, and that's not the interpretation of other Christian scholars. For example, Dennis Mins, who is a Catholic patristic scholar, he comments on that very issue, and he says, when Justin says that the Logos was begotten from the Father by the Father's power and will, and not by abscission, dialogue with Trifo 128, this is to eliminate any suggestion that the divine substance, ousia, is divided or altered. It is not to make a claim of substantial unity of the Logos with God. So that is about Justin Martyr, who had this conception of God, that God cannot change, and he's totally immutable, and all this kind of thing. That's what it was about. He wanted people to know that this begetting is not a matter of God, like, God forbid, ripping a piece of himself off, and then that becomes the Logos. That's what is meant by not being abscission, but it has nothing to do with the actual homoousion doctrine.
Well, I disagree. I mean, when I read it, he's saying that it's not divided. So I think that they may not be as precise in their language as we might think, but I think that they're still talking about the Father, Son, and Spirit, and bringing them into a unity. And there are statements where it will talk about the nature like this.
But Reverend Justin explicitly calls the Son another God several times in that same dialogue. I mean, is that permissible to believe that?
Yeah. Now, again, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't believe he does.
He doesn't? It's literally in the text. In dialogue with chapter 56.
Yeah, I know. And I'm looking at it now, because he's actually using the language of Trifo. So if you look in the previous chapter, Trifo answers and says, shall we remember, so what is this? Trifo answers, we shall remember this, your exposition, if you strengthen your solution of this difficulty by other arguments. But now resume the discourse and show us that the spirit of prophecy admits another God. So it's actually Trifo, because I listened to this in preparation, and the way that the argument flows is that it's Trifo who says, show me that there's another God. And so in the next chapter, he says, then I replied, I shall attempt to persuade you, since you have understood the scriptures of truth of what I say, that there is, and that there is said to be another God and Lord. So he's actually picked, like, if you just read it as a discussion, he's picking up Trifo's argument. I don't think this is actually the language that Justin uses. He's picking up the language of Trifo and saying, you've asked for another God. Well, I'll show you how there's another God.
Right. But Reverend, if I asked you the same question, if I said, can you show me another God? Your response is going to be, no, Jake. I mean, that's silly. I, of course, only believe in one God. So if he didn't want to accept that language, then he wouldn't have responded and said, yeah, hey, Trifo, I will actually show you that there's another God. The appropriate way to respond would have been, hey, I don't believe in another God, but I believe in another divine person, and he's the Son, and yada, yada, yada. But he doesn't do that. He's fully comfortable using the word another God. And to show that he actually believes it's another God, he says, another God and Lord subject to the maker of all things. Well, if the Son himself is the maker of all things, how could he be then another God subject to the maker of all things? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, all I'm saying is that if you read in the flow, he's taking Truffaut's language and then going on from there to explain what he means.
Well, Samuel, you would never do that, though. You would never do that. If someone said you believe in another God, you wouldn't accept that. You wouldn't say, well, I'm going to take that language and then spin it. That's crazy.
Well, I don't know. We're not talking about me. I'm saying I'm taking the document as it stands and how it flows.
Okay. I mean, we can move on. I mean, I've had entire debates on this, Martyr, but